Hello, and welcome to InkTV, and we just played Salmon Run. I'm joined by three of us who did play. I know a lot more of us on staff, in fact, did play more Salmon Run, but this is from each group that did end up playing the game. We all had a different experience playing it. So just to give an example, for those of you who don't know what Salmon Run is, because I feel like no one has a super clear idea of exactly how it works. Salmon Run is a game where it's like a horde mode in like a Call of Duty, you would say like a zombies mode, or in, how would you say, maybe like a Gears of War where it's actually called horde mode. We have Salmon Run, which is more like waves of salmon or toxic chum salmon that go out of the toxic waste, and your job is to kill them when you
harvest their eggs.
Yes. So what people don't seem to know so far about Salmon Run is that when you kill like the minor enemies, you get points. What those points go to, we don't know. We asked Nintendo exactly what it could be for. We didn't really get a clear response. The only thing we can think of, it's probably going to be towards like clothing or gear upgrades or gear resets or something to do with that. They haven't disclosed what it is, though. It doesn't seem like it's directly in the Salmon Run event, though. We didn't get to select gear either. I don't know. Did you get to select gear?
Yeah, so some people were able to get into like weapon select and gear select screens that you would have for normal turf war. Others weren't. Blake and I did, and in that screen it was just weapons, and it looked like it might have just been a limited list, kind of how like the Battle Dojo is, as opposed to like the full list that you get in the regular turf wars and ranked modes, as well as like. Specifically in the, they had the balance of weapons very similar to Battle Dojo. It wasn't like, you didn't have like the E-Leader and the Squiffer. You had like the Splatter Scope, and you had the Heavy, and you had the Vanilla Slasher. It was all the basic weapons, and also just the variety of the different shooter levels. So you had a Junior, and the Jet Squelcher were the short and long, which hadn't been revealed yet. So that was actually pretty cool. And then the last thing is like, in Salmon Run, like, it seems very similar to the story mode in Splatoon 1, because it's, everyone is default Splat Bomb. And from what I think, maybe the Power Eggs can upgrade you very similar to how in story mode you could get Seekers and Burst Bombs. Might be able to get you those as well, upgrade your ink take, that kind of thing.
So I actually had a different experience than you for the specials, is that we played a way different version than you guys did. I don't know what happened with you guys, but like my version was way more limited. So when we played, I had, everyone had to pick a splatter shot for the event of the demo, but we each had different specials with those splatter shots. So it leads me to believe that maybe in the final build of the game, you might be able to choose your special with your weapon of your choice. Like, it's more customizable in that sense, since it's more about teamwork than it is balance of the game. And for what you guys were talking about, it seems like there's not going to be any problem with difficulty in that sense. But yeah, so just to summarize really quickly, because we kind of went a little bit off track with the weapons, you kill small enemies and you get those points like what we said. But then you also have the larger enemies, which are considered like the bosses.
The salmonids.
Yeah.
Salmonids.
So those ones give you these eggs, like these salmon eggs. Yeah. You have to collect these eggs, and you have to put them into a net. So you capture them just by simply walking over them, and then you go to a basket that's in usually a central location. Press the A button, and it drops the eggs into it. So there's two ways that you can lose, and there's only one way to win. So the two ways you can lose is you run out of time before you fill something called your quota, which means you have to get enough eggs in that basket because you're working, right? You're working for Grisco. Got to get those sweet eggs. So
got to get them to Papa.
So for example, in my first wave, I had to collect 5 eggs, so I had to kill 2 bosses, collect 5 of them. My quota was met, and then it goes to wave 2. So if you don't collect the quota, you lose the game. The second way is if all your 4 teammates die. But the thing is that I feel like that's a lot harder, because the second someone dies, it takes maybe 2 shots with a splatter shot, and they're back up and going. So there's not a crazy penalty for it unless you're constantly swarmed. So that's kind of my experience with it. Do you have anything that you want to add to it, Blake?
One thing to add is that when you reach your quota, the game doesn't stop. So even if you like you said, with the first boss, you get 3 eggs and you need 5. So take out 2 bosses, you win. No, you have to keep going for the entire time duration. So even if you meet that quota at the beginning, you have to keep surviving and running through. So in some cases, I know, I think at one point, Hermes and I were able to get up to like...
I think we tripled the quota.
Yeah, I think we got up to like 14 or so.
5%. We were on 5%, and I think the quota was like 5, and we got 14 or something like that. It was crazy.
We just were cranking through, but you had to keep going. So even though we had far succeeded that quota, the game doesn't end, and the rounds are on a fixed time schedule.
I mean, technically you could run and hide, but I mean, that was no fun.
Another thing I'd like to add is that for those of you who don't know what we're talking about with 5% and all this, is that so how Salmon Run works is you can up the difficulty for yourself. So when I got to play, Nintendo kind of restricted us because we were on the first people, so they assumed that like no one really knew how to play the game, which was a mistake because I just got all the kills. It was, you could set it to like 5, 10, 15, 20, up to 200% of difficulty. No, they've confirmed 200 you can do.
They told us 100 and it was maxed.
We're getting different sources. I was told 200, but in your build it was 100. So we'll see how it works out, but that's what I had. So I got to play on 5%. And I'll let you know right now, 5% for anyone who plays the game. It's stupidly easy. Oh, yeah. But it's still fun. Like, it's super enjoyable. Yep. It's something that I wish wasn't a specific event thing, and it was more like you could play online, because it'd be amazing to do with viewers, I feel like when you're playing on stream or just chilling with friends. It was so much fun. We'll get into, like, the variety of the bosses and stuff after, but I just want you to talk about, because you were one of the lucky people to somehow get to play on 100% mode, and you got access to the full weapon set.
I think we're the only ones crazy enough to play on 100.
Yeah, so actually, before we start off the 100%, we had one of our teammates, it was Nikki and Uberu, who managed to do the 20%. And they were the only people for the entire day that were able to complete the 20%. And they were saying that it's really hard. And even those two said that they had a lot of difficulty even trying to complete it. It wasn't as easy as everyone thought. Like, they're basically saying, like, even if you're a pro, you really have to figure out a strategy. It's not as easy as it seems. And to summarize that, I know you two played on 100%.
Yeah, so we got to play probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours after Nicky and them played. Yeah. And the developer there was talking to us about it, and it was then how great it was that someone played and beat it at 20. So we said do 100.
No, we're just, well, okay, my thinking, I don't know about you, and because Jordan was the other one with us, I don't know about you, but for me, my idea was like, okay, I heard 20% was pretty hard. I want to see just how the difficulty scales. Yeah. And like, for me, the way that I figured it out was like, basically the main boss at the end of the last wave of the 5% was a commonplace enemy that we saw 2 or 3 of them just running around, no big deal. They were the cannon fodder, as Blake mentioned to earlier off camera. They were basically cannon fodder, and we were like, holy crap. The difficulty scale is going to be a lot of fun, because it's going to really force a lot of team synergy and a lot of team strategy. And it's going to create another game within it that's going to be really fun to develop, and hopefully just create a new mode to be competitive in who can do the best in Salmon Run.
Yeah, so speaking towards the bosses, like you guys were saying, is that like on the 5% mode, to give an example, there's like the normal like salmon things that pop out, and they die in like 3 or 4 shots, and they're like simple cannon fodder. You even have like these little tiny baby salmon that are super fast.
Yeah, they bump into you.
They bump into you and do nothing, and it's like you can like just like spray a little bit of paint by accident, and they'll all die. Or just walk
away and they leave.
And that's like on 5%, like the normal mob bosses, and then you get to like the actual bosses on 5% mode, and it's really creative, like how they came up with it. Yeah. And it's different every time. So, for example, I was with Red, and we played 2 different sets. So on my first set, I had this like crazy monster that had like a seeker type thing where it like latches onto you, and then like a giant circle appears, and it's like almost like a shark attack where it like jumps up and tries to bite you. Yep. But you can easily avoid it. Like, it's easily avoidable. Mm-hmm. You plant a bomb and you shoot it. It usually takes about 3 times that it shoots up to get that, and then it drops the eggs on 5%. I think that's different on yours, but we'll get into that. I had another one where there's like this, Red had this one where there's like this giant thing that pops up and it's like scaling and it's all metal. And then the actual salmon's at the top, and you have to shoot all the metal pieces off one by one. So it drops down to the bottom so you can kill it. I had one where one of the salmons has like a bomb that pops out of his head. And you have to splat the bomb on its head before it releases. But if it releases, it creates like a gigantic burst of paint everywhere. And you usually have to do like...
It looked like.
Yeah, so you have to do like 2 or 3 times, like hit it in the head and it dies. There's another one that like had full plated armor, like in a giant square, and then it opens up its flaps and it shoots things at you, but at the same time you can like shoot it, and that's how you kill it. So and the last one, which was like my personal favorite, was like this giant like salmon mechanical fish that like had a giant splash wall that went all along it. And you had to let it walk by you and go to the end where the salmon's controlling in the back, and you kill it, and then the whole thing just collapses. Another thing that was mentioned was that the specials, you only get 2 specials for the entire duration of the game, not per wave. So if you get 2 stingrays, you only have 2 stingrays. So you use them in like clutch moments when you're really in trouble, which is pretty cool. Adds a little bit more strategy. Bombs are super effective, like the subs and everything. Like you really have to utilize all your skills, even on 5%, just if you want to like do like a speed race for yourself. But yeah, so tell me about the monsters you guys face, because like I said, those like I faced little minions and then I faced the bosses, and those were like the main bosses for me. And same for Red, like those are all the types of monsters you face. But you're saying that those are like the normal monsters on 100% mode,
right? So the little guys that would bump into you and do nothing, it would be like the fully armored plated guys that you'd have to flank around behind to shoot them, because in 5% you can just blast them into oblivion and eventually you'll break through their armor. Turns out you can't do that on 100%, as I emptied a full tank of a heavy splatling into it. And nothing happened. I actually had to recharge and swing around behind it to then finish it off before dying.
Yeah, and then so specifically the big fish splash wall kind of thing, like that one was just my personal favorite boss, just because I thought it was so creative in the way that it was done. Because I don't think, did any of us like specifically test if it worked like a splash wall, because it looked basically
it does.
Like one.
I never tried to go through it. I mean, on 5% mode, everything was so easy. Like it was easy to kill. So it was more like I could analyze what they did. Like I see the intention was so that you could get caught in its body, right? But I mean, at 5% mode, you killed the thing so fast that there's very rarely a chance to worry about it. So.
But yeah, so there was those guys. I saw like 2 or 3 of them kind of swinging around the middle, and then the seeker one that you were talking about. So the way that I died, and I think I was the game over. I was the last one up.
No, I was.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Oh, then. Oh, now I feel bad. Like I died. I died towards the end. I guess it might have been, yeah. But like the way that I died was there were like 3 or 4 of them just surrounding me, continuing to pop up. So I had like no ink to try and paint around to get away, and I just died because they were all just continuing to paint around me. And I think that's a big thing, is like at 100%, I think the biggest problem we had, even with 2 heavies, was we had no turf control. Like they were just so many of them putting down so much ink that we couldn't go anywhere. Yeah. And it was really difficult, because there was a lot of pretty tough enemies that were going to take a little bit to eat through. And then on top of that, there's just like no ink for you to swim around in. There's very little space for you to really do anything, because you just end up getting crushed into the top of the hill. And then you might get a few kills, and yeah, we were able to collect about half of what we needed. But we were half of the first wave, and that first wave was insane. I can only imagine the second one.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of that, what will make 100% a lot easier to manage in the future will be that experience of just playing the map and just knowing all the ins and outs. Because playing on the beginner mode for, maybe 10 minutes or so, and then using that to base all of it onto the second set is just, it's not enough time. It's too easy to get turned around on that map in particular.
Another thing I'd like to add is that they are fully randomized. Like I said, when me and Red were both playing on 5%, We got completely different boss enemies that got summoned. They came from completely different areas, but it seemed to be like they follow a pattern. Like if they're coming from the top, they almost always come from the top, at least on 5%.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just to kind of summarize it up, I guess you could say is that 5%, yeah, it was easy, but it was a hell of a lot of fun to play with a bunch of people. I could definitely see the appeal. Like even at 5%, just having a great time, having a blast, just like shooting a bunch of things with friends, like it'd be awesome. And then I could see the challenge. Like, so for everyone who's saying like, is this game easy? Is this game easy? So from the words of you guys, how long did you guys last on 100%? Like how long?
We probably lasted a minute. Got about
probably a minute or two.
Yeah, we got a golden egg like every 10 seconds average just by defeating like basically the kind of like what would be the bosses of the first level just became kind of like you would just get normal power eggs, and then I forget exactly what it was, but I saw something that was a little bit bigger that we hadn't seen in the earlier one. And we definitely killed it, but because I think we were all just focusing on it, but we didn't really see much about it. Yeah. Just because we saw it was huge, and we're like, we need to mow this down because it was a huge threat. And that dumped a few power eggs, and that was how we were able to, or the golden eggs, and that's how we were able to get a few in. But yeah, we probably hit maybe the first mini boss of the first wave. It was crazy.
Yeah. One other thing to add is I noticed that the mode name for 100% was professional.
Yeah. Yes,
it's pretty good name for the mode. I'm not gonna lie, I like the pun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess just to kind of top it off, Salmon Run's really fun. Everyone, you should be excited about it. I wish that it was all the time. I mean, we'll definitely see how that event plays out, but it's definitely something that I wish could be played like more and more because it seems to be a really, really fun mode, add a lot of depth, and just like it's a different mechanic overall. Yeah, overall, I really liked it. It was probably one of the better things of Splatoon that I really enjoyed so far. Yeah, look forward to keep playing it. So, yeah, thanks for watching, guys.